Okay, I'm going to start the lecture. The strength is still not as per the number of students enrolled in this unit, but I will start because we can't wait for all these students to come and join us. Welcome to CSI1101 Computer Security and CSI5122 Computer Security. This is the last time the postgraduate version of this unit is being run, and because the university has changed the course criteria or the course structure for the postgraduate students. So those who are leftovers, who are coming from the previous years, are doing this unit in the postgraduate. Otherwise, this is a normal undergraduate unit that we are running. The strength of postgraduate is very minimal. There are only 9 students enrolled in this unit. So majority of you are from the undergraduate students. Their tutorial activities are different. Their requirements for the assignment is totally different. Primarily, this unit is designed for you guys, and I have to work around how I need to teach you about computer security at the level of undergraduate. I hope this is not your first semester. This could be your first year, but not the first semester. Is there anyone sitting here who is from the first semester? Okay, you can come to me after the lecture here, and I can show you how to operate Blackboard, because this is a second year, first semester unit normally. So I just don't want to waste the time for other students. So I'll just give you a brief overview of how to operate Blackboard, from where you can find the assignments, discussion boards, unit lectures, unit recordings, etc. So we can have a one-on-one chat after end of this lecture here in this lecture hall. Okay. Something about me, I am your unit coordinator, lecturer, and tutorial for some of the sessions. Hamish Cotton will be taking over some of the tutorials. Tutorials that run from 3:30 to 5:30 today will be run by Hamish, and all other tutorials from 12:30 to 3:30, I will be running those tutorials. It is, I guess, 206 in building 18. My name is Imran Malik. You can call me Imran or Malik whenever you write to me or talk to me. I have done 3 masters. I did my first masters in computer science back in 2003. I did my second masters in telecommunication and networks in 2012. I did my third masters in cybersecurity from Edith Cowan University in 2017. At the moment, I'm doing my PhD. I'm into my second year, and my topic of PhD is malware analysis and nature-inspired algorithms. I'll give you a brief overview of what I'm doing towards the end of this semester, maybe in week 12 or week 11. But at this moment, we should only be knowing that I'm a PhD student here. I'm a lecturer here. Besides computer security, I am teaching ethical hacking and defense to postgraduate students, to undergraduate students, and to online students as well. I have been associated with computer security in the previous year as well. I was working with Patrick last semester. Patrick is no longer taking this unit. He is taking the advanced version of computer security, which is termed as cybersecurity for postgraduate students, and I have taken over from him as a unit coordinator and lecturer for computer security. I've got 15 years of industry experience. I've been working in the IT industry for about 15 years, and out of those 15 years, for the last 8 years, I was working purely in information security and cybersecurity domain. At the moment, I'm not working. I've left my professional job because I wanted to do my PhD. And that's why I'm doing my lecturing as well here. What to expect in the unit? This is a first year unit. You will be introduced with the concepts and their application. We are not going to discuss anything advanced. If for any reason anyone of you is repeating this unit for one reason or the other, I have changed the contents of the unit. I have reduced the contents of the units. I have reduced the difficulty level of the units based on the feedback that we received as a result of UTEIs and feedback from the students, because since this is the first year, second semester unit or first year, first semester unit, we just don't want you to feel hard that this domain is very difficult. Throughout this semester, you will be given a lot of definitions and their application where those concepts or those definitions can be implemented, nothing more than that. Wherever there was pure mathematics involved, we have removed that thing from the lecture materials. It is for this reason you are unable to view lecture 4 and onwards, because I'm still removing the difficult stuff from those slides, from those lecture materials. So lecture materials should be available to you 1 week before that particular lecture is scheduled. So lecture 4 is scheduled in week 4. You should be able to get that lecture in week 3. And the only reason behind this, as I told you, that I'm just trying to simplify the course contents, the difficulty level. I just want to make it simple. We just want you to pass this unit and move on to next semesters. Whatever concepts we will be discussing in this unit, you will have a complete dedicated unit in your second and third year. So there is no point giving you a tough time in the first year and first semester. I just don't want you to feel that, you have taken a wrong decision by enrolling into Bachelor of Cybersecurity or whatever course you are enrolled into. A bit of housekeeping, please turn off your mobile phones or at least put them on silent. If you have got an emergency call, you can take that call by going out of the classroom. I don't mind that. But try not to take your calls inside the lecture room, because it is going to disturb the other students. I kind of do not agree to the second point. You can bring your food and drinks into the lecture halls, but just be mindful of the fact that if there are any accident, if something gets off, you have to pay for the cleaning and the repair facilities, repair and cleaning for all the facilities you have been given here. But for me, you are more than welcome to bring your food and drink, whatever you want to during the lecture. There will be some readings in the unit. The readings are not optional, they are mandatory. You are expected to read them all, because there might be some questions in the exam from those readings. We will have a dedicated discussion about exams in week 12, and I will tell you which reading is important, which one is not, but at the moment you should read all the readings which have been given to you in every week. Please check your email and discussion board at least twice a week. If I'm not active on the discussion board, your peers are active. So try to introduce yourselves. I've created few of the threads. There's a unit introduction thread, there is a lecture thread, and there is a thread for the assignments. If you've got any question, just post your question on the discussion board. Your peers will answer those questions, and I will be able to answer those questions on the discussion board. If you are not comfortable posting your question on the discussion board, just write it to me, okay? Being an on-campus student, you are at advantage, and I want you to take that full advantage. Instead of writing email to me, you can come to me and ask questions directly after the lecture or during the tutorials. I don't mind that, because by doing that, you will be able to clarify yourself more quickly as compared to waiting for me responding to your emails. If you have any problem, please make sure you do contact me before it becomes an issue. Try to come to me and talk to me directly if you're an on-campus student. If you're an off-campus student, please send me an email. And of course, you can send me an email if you're an on-campus student as well. Phone is the option, but try not to use it unless it is an emergency, because I may not be able to understand your question on the phone. It is better to write an email to me. It is more appropriate. Otherwise, if you've got an emergency, I don't mind, just give me a call. My phone number is available on Blackboard. You can call me, and if I'm there, I'll answer your call. When you write an email to me, please, on the subject line, write your unit code. If you are undergraduate, write CSI1101. If postgraduate, write CSI 5122 and a brief description of the question of the query that you are writing about. Typical turnaround time is 2 working days. That does not include any holiday or weekends, but normally I tend to reply within a couple of hours or at least after within 1 day. There is no core textbook for this unit. There is no need to purchase that unit. It's not mandatory. However, if you want to, this is the book that I will be referring to most of the time in this unit. In either case, please don't buy this book for at least a week. I'm trying from the library that if they can arrange the e-book, they are going to send me an update by end of this week. And if they are able to arrange an e-book for you, then there's no need to purchase this book. I'll send you an email and I'll update you that the book is available as an e-book version. You can go to the library and use that book free of cost. But if you are not comfortable reading the books in the electronic format, you're more than, you can go and purchase this book. But wait for a week at least, wait for an update from me by next week. I have been given the assurity that they will arrange the book. If not, I'll update you. The most important thing about the assessment in this unit, there are a total of 4 accessible workshops, accessible items. The first one is online test, which is worth 5% of your total marks of the unit. The online test will be made available to you from next Monday, that is 4th of March, 9 a.m. in the morning, and it will be available to you till 18th of March, 2 p.m. All the instructions are already there on Blackboard. Specific instructions will also be made available to you once this link will be available to you on Monday at 9 a.m. I will send an update to you as well, reminding you that your online test is available and you can attempt any time between these 2 dates and time that I have told you. The online test is from module 1, 2, and 3. If you follow the slides and the reading materials, you should be able to answer all the questions. There will be 25 questions. You have to attempt all questions, and the maximum marks are 5 out of 5, which is, it is the 5%. 5 marks out of 100 will be decided in next 2 weeks, from 4th of March till 18th of March. Then you have got your first assignment, which is worth 20% of the unit. It's a report on contemporary computer security issues. The assignment is available on Blackboard. Please go through that assignment, read that assignment. If you have got any difficulty, please come and ask me. I will have a brief run over on this assignment in week 3 after the lecture in the lecture hall, and that will be recorded as well. But before that, if you have got any question, please do come to me and ask me. I'm still finalizing your assignment 2, and that should be available to you by end of week 3. And that assignment is related to investigation into developing and communicating computer security countermeasures. We will have a discussion on this later in the semester, before the second half and the first half of the semester. But at this moment, there is no need to worry about it. Just focus on your online test and your first assignment. The most important thing is about your exam, which is worth 50% of your total marks allocated for this unit. Please be aware that in order to pass the unit, students must achieve 50% in their final exam, and they must achieve 50% in overall. If you get 20 marks out of 50 in your final exam, and if you get 50 out of 50 in your assignments, you will still fail the unit. If you get 30 marks in your final exam, you will pass the final exam, but if you don't get 20 marks in your assignment out of 50, you will still fail the unit. Is there any question on this and on the last bullet? Is it clear to all of you? You need to pass, if you want to pass the unit, You need to score 50% marks in your final exam, and you need to get 50% marks overall. There's a and here, there's no or here. So according to and logic, both conditions have to be true for you to be able to pass the unit. I will not be marking all the assignments. There will be assignment markers. I will let you know who your assignment markers will be. But at this moment, either your tutor, Hamish Cotton, or I will be marking your assignment. If there is any other, if there is any third person involved, I'll let you know before your assignment is due. What we are looking for your original thoughts, not the copy paste. Please give the evidence of your own original thought and analysis. It is not enough to simply repeat what is found in books and web pages. Try to read as much books, as much articles, as much newspapers as you want, but try to produce them in your own words, in your own thoughts, what you've understood out of those readings. Don't just try to copy paste and give that to us, because you will be caught. Your assignments will be submitted through Turnitin, and Turnitin will prompt us that this student assignment has been copied from this resource, and then you will be in trouble. The tips that I can give you at this moment about the assignment is, do not leave your assignment to the last minute. Make sure that you know the due dates. Your due date for your first online test is 18th March before 2 p.m. Your due date for your first report assignment is 7th of April before 2 p.m. Monday. And I believe the final submission date for your second assignment, which is a report as well, is 17th of May before 2 p.m. Monday. The dates are available on Blackboard. You can go and see under the assignment section, and please try to note those dates. But don't start your assignment at the end of the semester, when it is the assignment is due, because you won't be able to finish your assignment and get good grades. Always proofread your assignment. There should not be any spelling mistakes. I've been marking the assignments for computer security over the last year, and the thing that I don't like and where students lose their marks is that they don't proofread their assignment. They just write whatever they want to, and they just submit it. And when I start reading that assignment, I just feel uncomfortable because of a lot of spelling mistakes. And the sentence structure is very weak, so try to read your assignment before you submit it. And you can only proofread your assignment if you start your assignment on time. If you do your assignment at the last minute, then you will not get any time to proofread it and make it a final product which you can sell to us. You need to know about collusion. Collusion is when students work together in unauthorized ways and present work that is very similar. For your online test and your assignments, and for your exam as well, I will encourage you to discuss with your peers, discuss among yourselves, have group discussions on your assignments. Nobody stops you from that, but when you submit your assignment, when you write your assignment, write whatever you have understood out of those discussions. Don't just copy paste your friend's assignment or your peer assignment, okay? And don't just give your work which you have to submit to us, to your friends or to your class fellows. So, I mean, discussion is welcome. You should discuss anything in which you want to have clarity among your peers or to me as well. But whatever you discuss with your friends, your class fellows, just don't copy paste that thing, because your friend is going to submit the same to me, you know. So once Turnitin will tell me that these two students have got the same assignment, I'm going to call you and I'll ask you. And if you are unable to satisfy, then you will lose your marks there. You need to understand what is plagiarism. If you quote, paraphrase, use something that someone else said or wrote and don't properly acknowledge them? How do I determine your understanding or ability? Today's tutorial activity is all about referencing. We will be guiding you to install EndNote software, which is free for you as an ECU student. That is the referencing software. What it does, we will discuss in the tutorial activity in our workshop later today. But if you want to quote something from an article, from a book, from a web page, or a news article, just try to refer from where you have copied, where you have taken that quotation, or from where you have paraphrased that particular thing that you have understood. You are expected to attend lectures and tutorials, be an active learner, ask questions, discuss issues, arrive to lectures and tutorials on time. Do not be afraid to contact me, and please do not be afraid to speak up in the class. If you have got a question, an answer, a pulse, just ask the question. If it is relevant to the discussion that we are having at that very moment, you are more than welcome to give your input, ask your question, clarify yourself. And if there is a general discussion, you can ask that, or you can raise that point after end of the lecture in the lecture hall. I don't mind that. This was all about the housekeeping. Let's get on with it. If you've got any question about whatever we have discussed, please feel free to ask now, clarify yourself, so that we can start our lecture, formal lecture for the day. Anything which is unclear? Whatever we have discussed so far about the assignments, about the exam, about the requirements? All good? University has changed the recording, lecture recording software this year. We are using Panopto from this year. Previously we were using Camtasia, so we all are testing this new software. At the moment I'm recording my lecture for on-campus and off-campus students both. And if this works fine, I will upload that lecture later today. If something goes wrong, I will re-record this lecture and upload by tomorrow. If you don't get the lecture recording by Thursday of every week, just send me an email or post your question on discussion board. I'll be able to tell you that what is the delay that is affecting the uploading of the lecture recording. I believe everything is going fine at the moment, so I should be able to upload today's lecture by end of the day today. Please do not take any pictures, record audios or videos when I'm delivering the lecture. This is strictly not allowed. You will be given whatever you need in the form of lecture recording, which I will upload sometime today or tomorrow. So let's start our first module. It is about principles and aims. We will be discussing today some of the security breaches that have happened in the past 10 years around us. The most important takeaway out of today's lecture is aims of security. If you understand this one thing out of this whole semester, that what are the aims of security, how can you relate those aims of security to the security breaches that have happened in the past few years or that will happen in the future? This is all I want you to take out of this unit, out of these 12 weeks, If you understand what is confidentiality, what is integrity, what is availability, or to that effect, what is non-repudiation and what is authenticity, that is all I want you to understand out of this unit. So, people will ask you this question once you go into the industry for interviews, that do you know about the aims of security? Can you define confidentiality? Can you define integrity? Can you define availability? Do you know what is CIA triad? So you need to understand these 3 words or 5 words, these 3 aims and 5 aims of security, because this should be your bread and butter in cybersecurity. If you want to excel, you need to understand these 3 concepts. If you will understand these 3 concepts, you will understand all the units that you will be undertaking in your degree, in your course. Whether you take ethical hacking or defense, network security, wireless security, or any other unit, or forensic to that effect, you need to understand what are these 3 concepts. without exaggerating, there will be one question in the final exam. I'm telling you at this moment the aims of security. Whether I'm going to ask you 3 aims of security or 5 aims of security, I'll give you a brief overview about how that question could be in week 12, but there will be a question on aims of security in your final exam. Other than that, during my lectures, I will be giving you some of the tips and the questions that you might have in your final exam. So try to note those tips. Tip from today's lecture is you will get a question on aims of security, and you will get a question, and you may get a question from a general discussion that why it is difficult to sell security to the management, why it is difficult to convince our bosses who are non-techie guys that why we want this cybersecurity solution to be implemented in our organization. You may get this question or may not, but you will get a question on aims of security. So 2 questions in the exam out of this module. Can anyone tell me what do you understand out of this picture? What it actually tells you? There are 3 pictures, and there are different feeling from the person who is receiving that phishing email, you know. If you don't know about phishing, don't worry about it. We will have a discussion on this later in the module, not today, but later in some other module. Don't worry about what is phishing, you know, if you don't know. Just try to understand what these 3 pictures are telling you. Any idea? Yes, you are correct in a way. What I want to tell you here is that human beings are the weakest link in any organization. No matter what security controls you have implemented, what technical and non-technical controls you have implemented in your organization, human beings are the weakest link. If you don't train your human beings, if you don't tell them regularly, if you don't update them regularly about the phishing scams or the cybersecurity breaches that can affect the organization, they are going to affect your organization's business. So human beings are the weakest link in your organization. Have you heard of this person, Sun Tzu? Sun Tzu was a famous Chinese general. He's famous for his book on the art of war. He has got other publications as well, but the book that has got fame in the world is The Art of War. People in the industry try to relate his statements in the cybersecurity domain. He was a very fine military strategist, and in the military, people still use and try to follow his strategies. But since the whole concept of war has changed, you know, the probability or the percentage of having a war between 2 countries on the borders, having a physical military warfare, physical military conflict is very low as compared to the cyber warfare. So people have started to relate Sun Tzu's quotes to cybersecurity domain, and the first 3 bullet points tells you how you can relate your cybersecurity issues with the Sun Tzu's statements that he used to give when he was a general, when he was alive in the previous century. So the first thing is, if you know your enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. And if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will be defeated in every battle, you know. So what I want to tell you from this, if you look at the second bullet, at least you should be focusing on, you need to know yourself, what you have got in your pocket, you know. You need to understand what security controls you have implemented in your organization or to that effect on your personal computers to be safe from any of the malware or any of the virus that may affect your personal device or any cybersecurity incident that may have compromised your organization. So the three questions you need to keep on asking yourself all the time are: how well do you know yourself? How well did you know the information that you have stored on your device? And the effectiveness of your protection mechanism. If you have got an antivirus software, how effective that antivirus software is. If you have got a personal firewall installed, configured on your computer, how effective that firewall is. If you have got a personal IPS, intrusion prevention system or intrusion detection system on your laptop, on your computer, or in your organization, if you are a information security guy, how effective that protection mechanism is. So you need to keep on evaluating yourself around these three questions to be an effective person or to be an effective in your security controls that you have implemented. A bit of more reflection questions. I'm sorry I'm asking you all the questions because I just want you to feel why we are studying this unit. You know, this is the first cybersecurity unit in this course that you have enrolled into. So I need to bring you to that position where I want you to think in security that how I want to develop your security thinking, you know, that you should be asking these questions all the time to yourself, that why security is important, why we are studying cybersecurity, why all of a sudden this has got so much importance in the world. You know, everybody is looking for cybersecurity solutions, cybersecurity guys, why there's a huge demand in the industry. So, can anyone tell me, are the default security settings on computing devices an issue? Why it is an issue? Yes. Why is it an issue, default settings?
I believe it's an issue because all computers have a default setting, and that way anybody that knows how to get around the default
Yes, correct. Yes.
Yes.
Correct. Why don't vendors make computing devices secure by default out of the box? If you go to JB Hi-Fi, purchase a broadband router, and if you bring that to home and plug and play, you will be happy that my broadband is working, you know. Or even to that effect, if you have got a connection from IINet or TPG or any of your broadband internet provider, if you bring that device, plug and play that device, and that device starts to working, you will be happy that, you know, I can Google now. I've got the speed for 50 megabits per second, you know. But have you ever thought about this thing, that why don't vendors make computing devices by default secure by default? Why they don't make those devices secure? Sorry? Yes. It is our nature, you know, it is our psyche, you know, that we want to bring the things, and we just don't want to put enough effort in configuring our devices, you know. We just want to bring the device into our home, just want to plug it up, and we just want that device to work for us, you know. We just don't want to feel anything difficult in configuring that device, you know. So if those vendors implement the security in the devices, you know, in your broadband routers, you will not be able to use your devices right at the word go. You will have to do some difficult stuff, you know. You will have to do you will have to repeat you will have to configure your password. It may ask you that you cannot configure your devices till the time you don't have a secure password, you know, or you don't follow the security guidelines. So we are not in a habit of using all these or follow all these steps, you know. So that is the reason vendors don't make their devices by secure. My next question to you is, do you think is it safe for us to use those default devices? I mean, just speak up, you know, because I know majority of you might be using the devices in your home which are highly insecure, and which is normal, you know. Even in my home, my kids use devices which are not secure. I know that. I keep on telling them, but they don't listen to me because they just want to get into that trouble, of configuring those devices. I do for them, but they just don't want to follow those steps. So do you think is it safe for us to use those devices with the default security configurations? But if you have got a broadband router, you will use that broadband router for online banking, because there is the single entry point in your home. If you've got a mobile device, you secure that mobile device, and if you have got a banking app on your mobile device, and you don't secure that mobile phone, you are still at risk. So, a few questions on broadband routers. You will not be able to answer me for the last 3 bullets, but I hope everyone knows what is a broadband router. It is a single entry point in your home. That is its purpose, we use internet on that broadband router, through that broadband router. Can it protect your network or computers? Can it? If it is on default settings, it cannot, but if you implement security controls on your broadband router, it will. It has to, because it's a router, It's the single entry point in your home. So, yes, it can protect your network and computers, provided you implement some security controls into that device. What about the 4th bullet? Can it put your network or computers at risk? Yes, it has the potential. Online banking, medical tests, tax returns, everything is coming through that router. If that router is not secure, everything is open to anyone, How many of you, don't answer this question, but how many of, just answer within yourself, how many of you have changed the default password of your broadband router? Those who have not, just don't raise their hands, because so if I come to your house and if I've got my mobile device with me or any wireless device, if I scan my network, if I scan the network that are available around me, and if I find that your broadband connection is visible to me and it is running on default settings, I can log into your broadband router. I can use your internet, So I can change the security settings in your broadband router. I can redirect the traffic. I can do all sorts of things. So this is what you need to understand, that you need to change your default settings, at least for your broadband router, because that is the single entry point in your home. So those who have not changed their default password, this is the first thing you should do once you get to your home today, okay? Because even in my home, when I go home, when I scan my networks, there are all other networks available in all other homes that are around me. I can see their SSIDs, So even if I try to log into those SSIDs, I should be able to, if they are running on secure, if they have not changed their default settings. So please change your default settings. It is the single thing that you should do out of today's lecture, because we all are at risk if we don't secure our devices. Your privacy is at risk, your confidentiality, your integrity is at risk, even your availability is at risk, If I'm able to log into your broadband router, I can get the capability to disallow you to use your own router, So that is going to affect your availability. I can use your bandwidth, and I can play around with your router, and I can stop giving you access to your own router, So it's a direct attack on the availability. So we cannot compromise out of this triangle. We need to ensure confidentiality, we need to ensure integrity, we need to ensure availability. The last bullet we will not discuss. This is for you to think about. I will come over to this point in week 12. Why does it take for your broadband router to be considered secure? So you have got 11 weeks to build your answer, and we will have a discussion on this, that what does it take for your broadband router to be considered secure, what security settings you need to implement, what security steps you need to configure on your broadband router so that it can be considered as secure. Yes, please.
If you're thinking about your phone as an also access point.
Your mobile phone?
Yes, your mobile.
If you're using mobile data?
Well, yeah, in this kind of scenario, yeah. Like, how would you kind of secure your mobile phone as you would secure your router?
If you go into the so there could be two angles of your question. If you are using your broadband device, broadband router, and you are using your internet services from that broadband router, and if you then make your mobile device as an extender for other devices, other devices cannot connect to your broadband router, but they can get the internet from your devices, from your mobile device. This could be one scenario. If you've got a good latest Android version, or iOS is secure as compared to Android, if you go into the security settings in your mobile phone, you will find a number of authentication mechanisms and other things which you can implement and which can secure the communication between your mobile device and the other devices that you have allowed to communicate with your mobile device. The other portion of your question, the other angle of your question could be that if you're using mobile data and you open your mobile data on your mobile phone and then you are allowing your other friends to use your mobile data, you can repeat the same security settings in the Android options, that what is the security mechanisms available to you that you want to implement. Again, it depends on the Android version that you are using or the iOS version that you are using and the software version that you are using on your broadband router. Yes. Through a web browser, yes, because there's an IP address on every broadband router, and you can, if you go into the browser, you just enter that IP address, and if you haven't changed your default passwords, you will find in your labs, just if you know the name of your broadband router, just do a Google search in the labs and try to find the default IP address and the default username and password for your broadband router. You will get that username and password available. So it is very easily available for anyone if that person wants to attack on your broadband router, or if he wants to get into your home through that broadband router. So that is the reason you should be changing your default setting on your broadband router. Yes, please. Yes, there will be a connection through Wi-Fi. You can restrict the user to get that person to be authenticated using that password, but that is through SSID. But if I come to know that you are using this default name, I can open up the browser and I can still enter into your broadband router through that configuration of user ID and password. There are two different things that you are asking. Wi-Fi password is different, and getting into your broadband router is different. So even if your Wi-Fi authentication password is secure, is very strong, but your default settings are still there, I will be able to enter into your broadband router and redirect all the traffic into my account or whatever I want. Yes, Wi-Fi is a separate thing. Wi-Fi password is a separate thing, and getting into your router is a different thing. If you look under your broadband router, there is an IP address 10.1.1.1 or 192.168.1.1, and if you enter that IP address in your browser, you'll be prompted with the user ID and password. And if you know the brand of your router, like I use TPG at my home, so if you enter on Google that what is the default password for TPG and IP address for TPG, I'll get all the information on the first link that will come out of that search. So if I enter that IP address, the username and that password, I will be able to enter into anyone's broadband router. And I can go there and I can change your Wi-Fi password there, So, sorry? Admin is most of the cases, admin is default. Admin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is default. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is default, So, my next question, is the internet dangerous? What is, in your opinion, is it dangerous? But can we live without it? Can we live without internet? Sorry? Yes, but there's a big but, You can, but, you can't do this without internet, There, you have to use internet. There's no other option. Probably I would say that even for survival, the internet is there. Just imagine, can you live without Facebook account? I have got a Facebook account, but I don't use that account because I personally feel that it's a wastage of time. But can you live without Facebook account? No. Can you live without, you may live without Twitter account, you may live without some other social websites, but Facebook and to that effect some other, I'm forgetting the name, so you can't live without these two because you are so much used to of those things, You just cannot live without Facebook. So, yes, it is dangerous. You have to live with it. How can you live with it? By implementing some security controls, That is why you are here. You are studying this unit. You are doing this course, This is the latest chart that I've taken last week. It tells you world's biggest cyber attacks. We are going to discuss a few of them. And the reason for discussing all these cyber attacks is to give you a fair bit of understanding why we are studying computer security, what is the reason behind that, and what were the compromises that were made because of those cyber attacks on those particular organizations. So first I'll discuss this Marriott hotel, It was a massive breach of customer data. Initially it was claimed that approximately 500 million users' data was compromised, but later when the investigation was done, it downsized to 383 million. And what was compromised? All of your credit card details, your passport details, you can feel comfortable giving your credit card details and passport details to Marriott Hotel once you check in or check out, but you just don't want your personal details to be open to people, around the world. And these credit card details, passport details, your medical history, your tax returns, they all have got a value. They are being sold in the black market, Every information has got a rate, has got a fixed value. So people who do these cyber attacks, when they download these values, these credit card details or debit card details or passport details, they sell these details to the organizations who later then start giving you some anonymous calls. I hope everyone sitting here must have received at least one anonymous call from some organization trying to lure you that please buy our product or some other stuff, I used to get a lot of such calls, and I still get those calls because somewhere, sometime, all these details were being compromised by an organization, and I don't know what that organization was, where I gave them my data and that was compromised. But what is the most worrying thing about this attack is that this attack was launched from 2013 till 2016. For those 3 years, their data was continuously being downloaded by the cyber criminals. Marriott Hotel in their information security department was not aware of this. Even if they were aware of this incident, they did not disclose this to the customers. So for 3 good years, all of this data was being sold to the underworld, you know. Next is Uber in 2017. 57 million users' data is stolen. Their names, their mobile numbers, license information, and email addresses, all of them were compromised. They paid massive amount to the hackers just to cover up the breach, you know. So just to, initially Uber thought that if we tell this to our customers, to our users, to our drivers, or to the users, they might not be using Uber anymore. They will use the services from our other competitors. So they try to hide this information from the customers, you know. So they actually paid massive amount to the hackers just to, cover up their weakness. But they couldn't do so. They paid heavy amount, yet they had to tell this to their customers, you know. And to that effect, their CSO had to resign. But does it satisfy us? If my information is being compromised, and if some person comes and tells me, you know, because of this incident, our CSO has resigned, or we have made our CSO to resign, does it make you feel comfortable? Does it protect you from your confidentiality, integrity, privacy? No, it will not. Next major incident was Yahoo in 2016. All accounts in 2013 and 2014 were compromised. 3 billion accounts. We don't use Yahoo anymore. We are more used to using Gmail at this stage. But when this internet started to come into our lives, Yahoo was one of the major email service provider, you know. So in 2013 and 2014, all of the user accounts, there are approximately 3 billion numbers, all the details were compromised, you know. All the details were stolen by the hackers. But the problem or the worrying thing about this incident was that Yahoo, despite knowing this, did not disclose until 2016. And people were still using Yahoo, you know. If they would have informed their customers, people would have definitely stopped using Yahoo's email services. So what was compromised? Your names, your email addresses, your secret questions, your birthdays, and your phone numbers. Can anyone tell me what could be the worst effect of if I come to know about your security question and answers? Yes? Yes, because I will take these security question and answer, and I might start attempting your bank account to take out some money out of that, you know, because we are used to making our passwords around those security questions, around our, kids' names, favorite place, favorite car, or other things like that, you know. So this is, I would say, this could be the biggest compromise that that could have happened against our email accounts, you know. So my advice to you, referring to this particular incident, is that whenever you use third-party services, we have to use Gmail, we have to use other email service providers' services. We can't create our own. Don't use use security questions in a way that they do not disclose your very personal information. You can have general questions, but just do not add your family names or your favorite destination, because you will use those names around your passwords, you know. We will have a separate lecture on passwords where we will discuss what constitutes a good password, but at this stage I would still suggest that whenever you are being asked from any service to use your security question and answers, just don't select those questions that involves your very personal information, you know. Yes, please.
The majority of these attacks happen from malware that's being stolen.
Malware, it was from malware. Nobody knows what actually happens, to be very honest. Malware is the biggest threat. But any loophole in the security controls, I mean, if they were using their firewalls, which was running on default settings, I mean, hackers could have easily entered into their network, There are a few things, I'm deviating a bit from our discussion. Whenever a cyber criminal tries to attack on your computer, on my computer, or to that effect to an organization, they do passive reconnaissance first, and then they do the active reconnaissance. Passive reconnaissance means they get enough information about that particular individual or that particular about that particular organization, which is easily available on the internet. Once that information is available to us, to that person, that passive information, that passive reconnaissance converts into active reconnaissance, where they actually start attacking on that particular organization. So if we assume that there was a loophole in their firewall, as a passive reconnaissance, the criminal entity must have that information that this company is using X firewall, this model of firewall, from general Google search, This information is easily accessible. Once he had that information, that criminal entity might have launched an active reconnaissance against that Yahoo, and they might have scanned the services, the IP addresses, and then they might have tested that whether the default settings of that firewall are still enabled or they have been changed. And if they were enabled, he could have easily got all the 3 billion users data from there, So it depends. Yes, malware is the biggest threat. There is no denial to that effect, but there are other things as well. We'll come to know once we talk about network security, application security, web security, and passwords, But it's good that you've asked these questions, because I can feel that you have started to think what are different angles from where a particular individual or an organization can be compromised. Yes, please.
I read a while back about a casino being compromised through an IP-connected thermostat in a fish tank.
Yes.
So,
You're talking about IoTs, Internet of Things, This will come in second half of our semester. But yes, IoTs are the biggest threat. All your small devices, all your smart homes are the biggest threat, But we will have a separate discussion on IoTs later in the semester, towards the end. eBay, February 2014. Names, physical email addresses, date of birth, passwords, purchasing history, everything was compromised, And do you know eBay at that time owned PayPal, So what do you do with PayPal? You enter your credit card details, your CVV numbers, your everything. So all those details were compromised, because everything there was being saved in their database. So in 2014, when eBay was compromised, not only your basic information was compromised, your credit card details, your CVV numbers, everything was compromised in that attack. The most alarming thing, eBay took 6 weeks to tell their customers to change their passwords, And they only informed their customers to change their passwords. They did not tell anything else after 6 weeks. So we were not told that what has happened to our data, what has happened to our critical information. We were just informed that, just change your passwords. It is for your safety. That's it. Heartland payment system. You can read about this. Anthem, Sony PlayStation, it's a very famous attack, Iranian banks, this is the last of the cyber attacks that we will be discussing today. This person discovered a vulnerability in Iran's banking system. He wrote a report to the CEO of all the banks that were affected, and all the 3 banks ignored his suggestion, He was being nice to those banks, that, look, I have found this vulnerability in your system. This is the loophole in your system. So it is better to overcome this vulnerability. But all the 3 banks ignored his his good act, you know. So once they ignored his advice, he actually hacked all those banks, you know, to prove a point that he can access 3 million bank accounts. The banks advised customers to change passwords, but the banks did not advise customers that they would be addressing the vulnerability. So whenever we get such emails, we never think that what could have happened to our data, you know, because why the organization is telling us to change our passwords, to change our default security settings, you know. We never thought on these lines that something has happened to that organization. That's why they are giving us this false hope, you know. I mean, to me, it's a false hope, to be very honest. I mean, if I send you an email being your service provider that you should change your passwords, it is in your benefit, what would you think? You know, you will definitely think that, you know, I am being nice to you. I'm just telling you that it is in your benefit, just to keep yourself protected from cyber attacks. You should change your password. But you never thought that, you know, something bad has happened with my organization. That's why I'm asking you to change your password. So I have taken these three statements from the reports that we used to get from our service providers. I mean, I find these sort of funny statements or comical quotes, you know, because we might get an email from our service provider that attackers executed a sophisticated attack to gain unauthorized access. Of course, it was a sophisticated attack. That's why you have been compromised. But you need to tell me what was compromised. How much of my information has been compromised? The attacks would have been impossible to defend against. Yes, we know. That's why you have been compromised. But what you are telling me, apart from asking me that I should change my password, and we are taking a number of steps to prevent future breaches. Does all these statements give us the sense of security? No, they do not. I think we should take a break for 5 minutes now, and then we can move towards the end of the second part, which is the end of our lecture, where we will discuss the aims of security. Just take a 5 minutes break, and then we'll meet again. Okay?
For this unit?
No.
No,
Is it your first semester?
it's my first semester, but I just last 3 years of study bachelor science, school science and computer science.
There's no prerequisite for this unit, and we're not talking something difficult unit. It's just the entry level unit.
So it's an entry level for cybersecurity and stuff like that.
It could be a prerequisite. I have no idea, because every unit has got different requirements. This unit has got no prereqs. All good?
Sir, as you told, to post a discussion board, I don't know what it is, discussion board.
After the lecture on the tutorial activity, we can have a discussion.
And one thing I want to know that...
Are you postgrad, undergrad?
What?
Postgraduate,
No,
undergraduate?
I'm undergraduate. It's my first lecture. I also want to know as you told, there is a difference between default setting and a password. Then can you please clarify it more? Default setting, how to enter it, what it is.
Default settings are when you purchase a device.
Yeah.
There are some default passwords that are there on the device. Once before using it, you must change those passwords. You must change your security settings. Is what I wanted to say. Don't just purchase the device and use it as it is. Okay?
Okay, means that passwords are completely different from the Wi-Fi passwords.
Yes. Wi-Fi password you configure, you know, but the
Default setting we can see.
yes. How are you? How many of postgraduate students are here? Do you have any idea?
I've seen only 2, like
why did you enroll for the new stream? You don't want to continue with that?
I just want to complete information security.
Okay.
They suggested me, but I think I should go with this.
Sorry?
I thought these subjects are quite familiar now.
Are you repeating this unit? Are you repeating this unit? What happened?
He failed me by 2 marks.
You got 48?
I got 50, but in written it's like less, 2 marks or less, and
23.
he refused to give me.
Okay. Yes.
Do you know if I use social media sites like Facebook, you can put your real date of birth there. Is that the most worst thing to do? So I heard someone saying if you put your date of birth and your name there, and then access to other. Do you know what I'm saying?
I would say that do not enter your exact details ever in any of the social media thing, whether it's an email address or Facebook, because you will be compromised someday. Because all the security controls are meant to be compromised, to be very honest. So, okay, let's start our topic because you might be aware of the fact that the class, we have to vacate this room by 15 minutes before our scheduled time. So our scheduled time is 12:30. So we have to vacate this room by 12:15. Today's lecture is a bit long because we have spent much time on our introduction. But from next week, I hope that we will not be spending that much time. We should be able to finish our lecture within an hour or hour and 15 minutes. So I have to finish this lecture before 12:15, so we can start now. In cybersecurity, you need to follow some of these standards. You should be knowing about NIST. There's a reading material in today's module that I have given you. I have given you one of the NIST special publication to read. You don't have to read the entire reading. There are a few sections that I have mentioned on Blackboard. You should be knowing what stands for NIST. It's very important because wherever you go in cybersecurity, we follow NIST standards, I mean, they are the guys which everyone follows here around in the world, Don't worry about this one. You should be knowing that what stands for ISOC, what stands for ITU, what stands for ISO. But you should be aware of NIST and you should be aware of Australian ISM, Australian Government Information Security Manual. These two things are very important for you, not only for this semester, but for rest of your course, for all other units that you will be doing and in the industry as well. They were supposed to change their name from ISM to Cybersecurity Manual this year. They have not changed it. I don't know the reason, but they are still constantly updating their security manual, and if not this year, this ISM is going to be changed, replaced with the word Cybersecurity Manual. So how can we understand, based on whatever we have discussed so far, what is computer security? We can define or we can understand computer security as something that deals with computer related assets that are subject to a variety of threats and for which various measures are taken to protect those assets. This sort of an easy definition for computer security. Don't worry about these two words, assets and threats. We will have a separate discussion next week. We will understand the definition and how they relate to each other next week. Just try to understand the definition of computer security here. We actually answered three fundamental questions in computer security. You know, we try to find the answers of these three questions. What assets do we need to protect? How are those assets threatened? What can we do to counter those threats? So we need to have an understanding what is critical in our system, what do we want to protect, how those identified assets can be threatened, and how can we protect those assets out of the threats that we have identified. This is the basic summary of what we will discuss in lecture 2. We will be discussing about assets, threats, vulnerability, risk mitigation, and things like that, counter contingency plans, business continuity plans. So this all, whatever words I have used, all those words comes under these three questions. You know, we should be able to identify what we want to protect, how that identified asset can be attacked, can be compromised, and what countermeasures we can take to protect that identified asset. A more formal definition, according to NIST, for computer security is measures and controls that ensures confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information system assets, including hardware, software, firmware, information being processed, stored, and communicated. There is no need to memorize this definition by heart. I don't want you to, to waste your time on memorizing this definition, but just try to understand these three critical words here, that we want to take the measures and controls, implement such controls that ensures confidentiality, integrity, and availability. You can define computer security using this simple definition, but out of the NIST, you should only be focusing on these three words and understand what the idea behind this definition is. So the main chunk, of today's lecture and the main takeaway of the entire unit is understanding the aims of security. There are generally three aims of security. One is confidentiality, the other one is integrity and availability. They often are named as CIA triad. There are two more aims of security, authenticity and non-repudiation. And there is, it depends what document you are referring to. Some people agree on these three, the other say that there should be 5 aims of security. If you understand these three, should be enough for you. These two should be icing on the cake if you understand what is authenticity and what is non-repudiation. But these three are, you should be memorizing these three by heart, you know. You should don't memorize the definitions, try to understand what these concepts are. So what is confidentiality? It's an information systems should only be read and or accessed by authorized people only. Information systems should be kept private, secret, and out of the hands of those who do not have authorization to access it. Like we discussed in the Marriott Hotel case, the people at bank, at the Marriott Hotel, were authorized people to us to be able to see our personal information, like our names, because they are the one who entered that information. But the people, the cyber criminals who actually attacked that that Marriott Hotel database, they were the unauthorized people. So our confidentiality was breached in the Marriott Hotel case, and in the Yahoo case, or Uber case, or Iranian bank case, or all other cases that we have discussed in the earlier slides. Another example I can give you: organization stores your medical records, and they have a legal and moral and ethical obligation to keep information private. I have no right, being a non-legitimate person, to look into your medical records. I have no right. Being a unit coordinator, I have to, I'm marking your assignments, but as someone who is in the faculty, who is not associated with this unit, has got no right to look into your individual marks or your total marks or your details about how you're progressing in your course, So the basic idea behind confidentiality, that information and systems should only be accessible by those people who are actually authorized to have access to that information or that system. Breaching confidentiality may result in loss of revenue, loss of reputation for the organization, loss of clients and customers, in case of Yahoo, Uber, Marriott, and other, and embarrassment for the organization as well. We can ensure confidentiality using encryption. Module 4 is on encryption. We can ensure confidentiality on using access control. There's a module on this as well. And essentially, we need to implement security controls. We need to educate our people, and we need to give enough training and awareness to our employees to be able to ensure confidentiality. We can define integrity as ensuring that information systems have not been altered in an unauthorized way, and ensuring that our information and our systems that we want to protect has not been tampered with. So there are few examples that I have included in this slide. Storage drive malfunctions and corrupt stored data. If you have got an external hard drive, or to that effect your hard disk drive, or your any other USB drive, if that malfunctions and that corrupts your data that is stored there, it is a compromise on the integrity of that data. You can't trust that data, If an employee makes unauthorized database changes, if an employee is not allowed to change the database values, and if he changes that value, it's an attack, it's a compromise on the integrity of that data, If a malware modifies files on a computer or a server, it affects your integrity. If Wi-Fi data is modified, corrupt in transit, if you can see these Wi-Fi routers, fixed upstairs, you must be using these Wi-Fi routers. If my communication from my mobile device to this Wi-Fi router is not secure, is not encrypted, and if someone hijack that session and changes the values, it is possible. If the communication is not encrypted and changes that data, it's a compromise on the integrity of that data. Don't get terrified. This Wi-Fi is secure. You can still use this Wi-Fi. I've just given you an example. Importance of integrity. A compromise or breach of integrity may result in important decisions being made on information that is not trustworthy, correct, and error-free. Corrupted information may be difficult to detect, and untrustworthy, unreliable backups. Just imagine if a hospital may lose a patient because a single database value was updated incorrectly. So that's, the criticality of maintaining the integrity of data. It can affect the values. It can affect the patients. It can affect your medical records. It can affect your user record at university. It can affect your tax returns. it can do anything, you know. So that's why integrity is one of the major aims of security. We can ensure integrity through hashing, module 5. Just remember the name at this stage. We'll discuss more about hashing in week 5. Performing regular backups and performing data validation. And above all, implementing security controls, education, awareness training to our employees, you know. Can anyone tell me what is the advantage of having regular backups? How can it ensure your integrity? Any idea? Sorry? Yes, you can check that, you can perform hashing functions. And if you come to know that your organization has been compromised, if you have got regular backups, you can store your original data from those backups so that the total cumulative effect is not that big, you know. Availability, ensuring that information systems are accessible and modifiable in a timely fashion by those authorized to do so. A website is overwhelming by fake requests and cannot provide services to clients. This is the example of an availability, you know. Do you still remember what happened in 2016 when the census was being conducted for the first time in Australia? Does anyone remember that thing? We were all given a time frame in which we were asked to log into that census website, and we were supposed to enter some information, some question answers. And that was the first time that activity was being conducted online. So what happened was that that website was overwhelmed by requests, you know, that majority of the users were unable to get access to that census database, census website, you know. So we were unable to enter our information because we were unable to log into that website. It was because there was an overwhelming requests by people. I don't know whether they were fake people or the original request, but the issue was not properly handled, and that's where that was a big failure in Australia. Sorry? I actually don't want to get into that detail. It was, I mean, when the audit was done, it was told that it was actually because of a cyber attack, you know. Someone somewhere was not in a position to, never wanted to make this happen, make this a successful project, you know. But that is a separate thing. We are not going into that detail. The idea that I want to bring to you at this stage is it was an attack on availability, you know. Whether it was because of the fake requests, whether it was because of the legitimate requests, or whether it was because of a cyber attack. The normal Australian people or citizen or resident was unable to actually access that website, you know. So it was a compromise on availability. An employee powers down a web server, eventually will make that service unavailable to you. If a storage drive malfunctions, and if an Ethernet cable is removed from a switch, you know. If I remove an Ethernet cable, this is the Ethernet cable. If this is connected somewhere to my computer, and if it is easily reachable, if I disconnect this, I will not be able to show you anything on Blackboard or access internet from here, you know. So removing an Ethernet cable from a switch from the end device also affects your availability. It's a compromise on your availability. The effects of non-availability, I'll just discuss this example. You must have heard this word, WannaCry, July 2017. As an effect of this ransomware attack, which is a type of malware, the UK's National Health Services system was unavailable for quite some time, you know. So what happened was that when their patients came to NHS, the employees were unable to access the system, and the patients had to wait for very long because there was no other information available to them, that when is their appointment, who is going to be their GP or their doctor who is going to take care of that particular patient, and what is their medical history. That was WannaCry's effect, was an actually attack on the availability. It was an attack on confidentiality as well, but the reason I have quoted this example here, that patients in a hospital waiting to be served because of this ransomware or malware attack, it's a perfect example of a compromise on availability. Ensuring availability, you need to implement access control mechanism, probably module 6 and module 7. You need to bring computational redundancies in it, backups, physical protection mechanisms, and again, security, education, awareness among your employees. We can define authenticity as ensuring that an entity is able to prove or verify that it is who or what it claims to be. It is verifying that the users are who they say they are, and that input arriving at the system came from trusted source. Sorry for this spelling mistake, I'll make a correction. So yes, so is this Western Australian driver's license real? This could be an example of authenticity. Is this person really who they say they are? Is this document really what it's supposed to be? Is this really my bank's web server? This is where the authenticity comes in, Having that comfort level that whatever you are seeing on your computer or any of your electronic device is from your actual organization is what the authenticity is about. What is non-repudiation and accountability? Ensuring that an entity is unable to falsely deny action. For example, if Alice sends an email and then denies sending it, it's a compromise on accountability, If Bob denies receiving an email when in fact he did receive it, If I send you an email and you say that I have not received it, there should have been a mechanism, there should be a mechanism that tells me that yes, that you have received that email, Frank refuses to pay the bill for an online purchase, saying that the goods were not received when in fact they were. And Bob denies access illegal content online. So these are a few examples of non-repudiation and accountability. 3 or 5 aims, I think at the start of the semester, you should only be focusing on the first 3 aims, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And towards the end of the semester, you should start understanding what the other 2 aims are. But for the sake of exams, I guess I would suggest that you should only focus on the first 3 aims. But you should be knowing the definition of the other 2, the basic understanding of other 2, and you should be knowing in detail what the main 3 aims are. Okay? You can go through this slide. This is very simple. Statistics on computer abuse. We don't actually get the accurate statistics. If you recall what we have discussed in the cyber attacks, whatever numbers were being told to us were being told by those organizations. Whether they were correct or not, we don't know. We just have to trust whatever was being told to us through the news, print media, or electronic media. And actually, it is very difficult to actually understand the worth of that data that has been compromised, because you can't answer this question. Consider your own computer for a second. What information it contains, and how much is the computer and the data worth? I mean, there is no criteria to answer this question to bring that value of that data that has been compromised, or that may be compromised. So, I mean, we can never get the correct statistics on computer abuse. There are reasons listed here why we can't get it, and whatever the company or the organization tells us, unfortunately, we have to resort to that. You can go through these two slides. These two slides are self-explanatory. If you don't understand these two slides, just send me your emails or ask questions in the next lecture. Before I start, I'll ask you. But just try to read these 8 comments before we conclude our today's lecture. These are the 8 points. I mean, you can have more points as well. I have added these 8 points for your understanding. How can you convince your organization, if you want to convince them that why a particular security control is needed by us, is needed by the organization, is mandatory for the organization if they want to ensure the security of information that they have. So you need to link your internal business case to the legislative requirements and best practices. Tell your manager if this is compromised, it will affect this much 25,000 or 50,000 customer data, and if that happens, it is going to affect the goodwill, our market value, and nobody is going to come to us in the future, Use internal matrices, logs, firewall logs, IPS, IDS logs in your business cases, and tell them, we have been attacked by these many organizations. These are the IP addresses that have been attacking us constantly, and that is why I'm asking you to implement this security control, purchase this security control to protect against those attacks, You need to be able to present a realistic breakdown of time, cost, and quality management, demonstrate the value of the assets used within the organization, and ensure you have a complete understanding of the strategy you're selling or promoting. You might not be understanding all these words because this domain is new to you. Just try to read these points and understand them, because like I have used the words IPS, IDSs, access controls, encryption, hashing. This is just introductory unit, and we will be discussing these concepts later on in the semester. Just try to understand these 8 points, and what else do you think could be added in this list that can convince our organization for which we are working for, in order to be able to convince them that yes, why we need this security solution, why it is important for us. Okay? Is there any question out of these 2 slides? Please ask, otherwise I'm going to end this session. Tutorials you need to attend. You will be introduced to different tools in these 12 weeks. The legality of security tools will vary in certain jurisdictions. Whatever tools we are giving you at an ECU, you can use an ECU, but if you have to use those security tools, those encryption tools in some other country, or to that effect some other state, you may need to check their jurisdiction as well, Please be mindful when you use internet, because when you will search for some security solutions or detailed information about a particular security incident, you might come across the websites that contain offensive material, and they may send you to some other site which contains some malware or some other stuff. So try to use your computer diligently, and always have your antivirus updated with the latest virus definitions. My final comment: back up your work for all units regularly, especially for this unit. Please don't come with an excuse that I cannot submit my assignment because my data was lost. It is your responsibility to ensure backup of your work. Being an ECU student, you have been given OneDrive access, which is drive on the cloud. You can save your work on that drive as well, which is known as OneDrive. Just search on main page of ECU, and you will get access to how can you configure that OneDrive. Backup your data on multiple computers if you have got on multiple storage devices like USBs or portable hard disks. Please make sure that you don't lose your work at the end of at the final submission time. Please do not download or install unknown softwares. Do not request assignment extensions because your computer has been compromised or you deleted your work, If you have got some genuine issue, please do come to me. ask for an extension, I'm more than happy to give you that extension. And if that reason is genuine, I can give you extension for 1 week. And then if it is beyond that, just send me your documents with more evidence, and I will seek approval from Dean Teaching and Learning. Okay? And thank you very much. See you in the tutorials and next week as well.